Hey everyone, it's Saturday. Time for another episode of Beyond Garnet. Let's get creative.
May be too intense for some listeners, may be unsuitable for sensitive people, may cause dizziness, may cause drowsiness, may cause excitability. Safety goggles may be required for listening. Take with food, avoid contact with skin, avoid extreme temperatures, and store in a cool, dry place. This is not legal advice, must be present to win. Contents under pressure may contain small parts. Listen at your own risk.
Happy Saturday, everyone. I have a superb guest for you today. You will know her from the TV series Moonlight and the current series, A Discovery of Witches, but also from films like Underworld, Underworld Evolution, and Transformers Age of Extinction. The absolutely amazing Sophia Myles. Hi, Sophia. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, Lana. You're very welcome. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. I have to tell you, I'm so excited to speak with you because I think up-and-coming actresses and even actresses who have been in the business for a while need to hear insight from other females in the industry.
Right. Well, I'll do my best to give you some insight. I've been doing this for, 25 years now, so hopefully I've got a few nuggets of information that I can share. What kind of questions do you have?
Well, one thing is, I would like for you to share what you think the importance is of training as an actor.
Well, that's hard to answer because I never went to drama school. I haven't ever taken an acting lesson in my life.
Wow.
For me, it's all, I was spotted in a play at school by the gentleman who writes Downton Abbey, Julian Fellows. And I was sort of plucked from obscurity, really, and I just completely fell in love with being on a film set. To me, it was just the happiest place that I'd ever found myself in, and as soon as I did one job, I knew that I wanted to continue, but it's very hard for me to answer that question, because I suppose in my circumstances, training's been completely irrelevant.
Sure.
I'm not, I'm not saying don't go to drama school. I think it's a fabulous thing to do. I was just really lucky not to have had to go through, well, no, that's wrong saying I didn't have to go through that, because I think it's, from the people that I know who have gone to drama school, they've loved it enormously. So, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, you're one of those stories you hear about where, an agent saw me in a park, or, those stories that you don't think are really true, but they really are. It does happen.
Yeah, it does happen, and it's a tough business. I'm not going to lie. When it's good, it's the best thing on earth. It's the best thing in the universe. But when it's bad, it's really bad. So my kind of advice to anyone wanting to, become an actress is to say, don't do it because you want to, do it because you have to.
Yes.
You have to have that level of passion, because the road ahead for any young actor is, I'm not going to lie, it's going to be rocky. And sometimes, you fly up the mountain really quickly, but then you get knocked down, and then you walk slowly up again a little bit, and then you get knocked down again. It's a bit like a game of snakes and ladders, or at least that's how it felt to me. So I've learned to kind of never get too cocky, I guess, or kind of, full of myself when suddenly I'm almost at the end of the game, or that I've climbed a massive great ladder, because you just never know, if you're going to hit a snake.
Right. Wow. That's funny, because I was going to ask you what the most challenging aspect was of being an actor.
Right. Well, rejection,
Yeah.
rejection, and it's definitely a test on mental health. I have found that, it's been very, very hard at times not to take rejection personally, because at the time it really, really feels, well, it is. I mean, at the time it's crucifyingly upsetting, especially when it's a job that you so desperately want. And it's hard not to think when they don't cast you, maybe it's because I was too fat, or maybe it's because, I didn't wear the right outfit, or that my voice wasn't right, or I didn't, prepare enough. And that's actually always not true, because what I've found is that for the jobs you don't get, there will be another job that comes along that then it completely makes sense why you get the one you thought you should get, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now, did you have a defining moment when you knew you wanted to go like full steam ahead as an actor? Was there like a moment
Yes, I
that,
did.
yeah?
Yeah, oh yeah. It was a no-brainer for me because what happened was I was very academic at school, and so when I had started acting, I was continuing to go to school at the same time. But in England, when you get to about 18 years old, you can go to university if you want. I think the American equivalent is college, right?
Yes.
And I had got a place at Cambridge University, which is the equivalent to, say, your Harvard over there, and study philosophy, which was a subject that I was fascinated by. But at the same time, I was offered a role, very small role, to play Johnny Depp's wife in a movie called From Hell. And the scene, there was only a couple of scenes for my character, but one of the scenes involved me lying in a bed with him, kissing him, and then telling him that I was going to have his child. I'd hit his wife. And it was at that point where I thought, hang on a minute. I can get paid money to kiss Johnny Depp doing what I do. So, yeah, I would say that was the defining moment. That's when I realised I was like, okay, I'm going to go and do this for now. Because also, acting is something that I think you need to grab it, pardon my French, but you need to grab it by the balls in your youth, and because that's, those years are really important to kind of try and lay a foundation for yourself, and that's where there's a lot of roles for young girls. We'll talk about, the progression through the ages a bit later, but there is a point where suddenly roles run out for a while, but let's get to that at another point. I've now completely gone off tangent. I can't remember what I was saying, but anyway, I think you get the gist.
Yeah. So what were you like as a kid?
Very, very shy. Very, painfully shy. And the irony is that I remember having to do a school nativity play when I was in, is it kindergarten? No, when you're 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And I was so painfully shy, I was crying about it to my mum, and I said, Mum, the only character I'm going to play is the donkey, as long as they let me wear a mask. So I wore this big kind of fake, donkey head to cover my head because I was that embarrassed about being seen by people on the stage.
That is so crazy.
So, I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. That's wild, yeah. You probably have a list. I know I have a list. Who are a few people that inspire you?
In the world now or historically?
Let's do both.
Okay. In the world now, I think Ellen DeGeneres is brilliant.
Okay.
I have to say. I think her show is so inspiring, and the fact that she helps, so many people and donates so much money to charity. I think her platform and her character is just incredible. I think Obama was amazing. I'm so sad that he's, not with us anymore. Who else? Oh my goodness, there's just so many people.
Right.
And often, do you know what? Often the most inspiring people don't work in the public eye, and there
Right.
are so many people that I've met that are, just local people who live in my village here, and I live in a place called Kent, in a county just south of London. It's very, very beautiful here. It's called the Garden of England. We have sprawling countryside, and it's incredible.
wow.
But like I said, I've met some people that sometimes there's people whose names I don't even know that have inspired me.
Sure.
It could just be I don't know, the guy who was driving your bus one morning.
Yeah.
It's my son inspires me for sure, because my son Luke, he's 5. He takes me back to my childhood and kind of reignites me with that sense of wonder and imagination. That innocence that kids have and that playful nature. So he inspires me.
Yeah, we lose that pretty quickly, don't we, as we start to grow up?
Yeah, sadly we do. But that's why acting's so much fun, because you get to kind of just be a kid and,
Yeah.
go and play dress up. Oh, you know what's going to happen? As soon as I put the phone down to you, I'm going to have a list of people that run into my head, and then I'm going to want to call you back and say, no, wait, Lana, these are people. But literally those are the two that cropped up. They're both American, but historically, I'm fascinated by the ancient Greek philosophers, people like Aristotle, Plato, Socrates.
Yeah.
I think it's the deep thinkers that really the people that have gone on that journey within as well, figures like Buddha or anyone who's achieved enlightenment. Like, to me, I have a very strong spiritual side, and having led a life and been fortunate enough to have had a career that's taken me to travel all over the world and meet amazing people, I've discovered that my sense of happiness or inner peace doesn't actually correlate with any of that. We can think, oh, well, I'll be happy when, I'll be happy if. But actually, there was a point, this is relative to my career, actually, where I ticked every single box on my wish list. Like, right, I want to make I want to have a TV show in America. I want to have a house in Hollywood, a house in London. I want to have a dog. I want to, have a sexy boyfriend, blah, 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 blah. And I had all of those things, but at the same time, I had no idea who I was.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, it's not ironic, but the fact is that I'm able to pretend to be all these strong, charismatic, exuberant people, or any kind of character, frankly, when I'm given a script and I'm told where I have to stand and what I have to say and what I'm wearing. But left to my own devices in real life, it's definitely, that's a whole other ballgame. Like, that's much harder than acting.
What do you think has been the toughest role mentally that you've taken on so far?
I think, well, to be honest, I think that role is yet to come.
Okay.
Because I think, when I was younger, I was, always asked to play the ingenue, and I was pretty much in movies just to look pretty and to have men fall in love with me on screen. So although I have played, tragic characters like Isolde and Tristan and Isolde with James Franco, and it's always, mentally it's always a challenge when you have to make yourself cry, because what I do to achieve that is I have to go back into my memories and and then conjure up, by going dark into my memories, I can feel the feelings that I felt when something bad happened. So if you're playing a tragic character and you're having to kind of bawl your eyes out a lot, that's challenging, but I would say it's more emotionally challenging than mentally challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would love, for example, to have, I think a mentally challenging role would be to play, for example, a psychopath, because to get into the mindset and to start to understand the mindset of those kind of people, I think that would be a massive challenge for me. As of yet, I've yet to have played a role that has really sort of really tested me on a mental level. But I know that that's going to come. I'm 40 now, and all of the scripts that I'm reading and all of the characters I'm playing at the moment are starting to be so much richer, and you know what I mean.
Yeah. What kind of hobbies do you have, if you have time for hobbies?
I wouldn't really say I have any hobbies. I'm writing my own screenplay, actually, at the moment. That's my... It's kind of... I don't really normally have hobbies, but that's become my hobby at the moment. I'm writing I'm going to start writing it as a short film, because I don't want to set my sights too high, but I'm co-writing it with a very good friend of mine, and it's a very, very dark comedy. I think it's a rather interesting idea. I'm not going to talk about it too much now, because
don't give it away.
6 pages. But hobbies, I love to horse ride. I love to ski, but I don't get to do that enough. I've promised myself that when I'm 50, I'm going to buy myself a horse, but that's 10 years away. I just bought myself a dog when I was 40, although I sort of lied and told my son it was his 5th birthday present.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a little Italian greyhound.
They're so cute.
He's got some whippet in him as well, but he's what they call a blue. He's blue. He's not actually blue, but it's kind of grey. He's so sweet. He's called Justin after a dear friend of mine died this summer last summer of a brain hemorrhage. Just literally dropped dead.
Oh wow.
And so his name was Justin. So I called my little dog Justin in his honor.
Now I love it when people name their dogs people names.
Yes.
I have a little Yorkie, and his name is Jake.
Jake. Oh, I love it.
Now, do you collect anything?
Yes, I do. I collect precious stones and crystals.
Oh, wow.
I'm a bit of a hippie, I'm all about, energy and kind of, vibration.
Yeah.
And you'll find me, like, if I ever move into a new apartment, I'll be, like, getting the sage out and smudging the place and kind of, so yeah, when did I start collecting? Not that long ago, probably about 5 or 6 years ago, but I'm just fascinated by them, and they're so beautiful. To me, so many of them are more beautiful than diamonds.
Yes.
And they're also supposed to hold, I don't know if you know much about crystals, but they're supposed to hold energy, you know, and each different stone has a different, sort of vibrates on a different frequency and has different powers that it can give out to you. So, I mean, I believe that. Some people might think it's complete horseshit, but...
Yeah. No, I have friends that won't leave the house without like a certain rock or crystal in their pocket.
Yeah, no, I'm that person.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
And I won't let anyone else touch my crystals. Don't you try and touch my crystals, because I don't want your energy on my crystals.
Right. How many do you think you have? Do you know?
I probably have about 50 now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a good collection.
Some of them aren't cheap.
Yeah.
So you've got to be, you know, I've got to sort of pace myself. But there's this one that's incredible. It's called moldavite, which is in fact not a crystal. It's what they call a tektite.
Mm-hmm.
And they say that it came from an asteroid that hit the Earth. It hit the Earth in the Czech Republic. So there's actually very, very limited supply of these things. And in fact, if people woke up, they are going to be more valuable than diamonds. They're green, kind of dark green. But yeah, so that's a special one. That's my magical power stone that I'll keep in my pocket. And
oh, wow.
It's supposed to aid transformation. It's supposed to be incredibly powerful.
I don't know a lot about crystals, but I think they're absolutely stunning. I think they're beautiful.
Yeah, no, they are. There's a book you can buy called The Crystal Bible, and it will tell you all about all the different kinds and all the good things that they can do for you. I mean, my partner thinks I'm completely nuts, but I don't mind, 'cause they help me.
Now, is this the same person that collects all the fenders? Because I saw the video with all the fenders.
Yes.
He makes them, right?
I've been tweeting like I'm kind of about to be committed to an asylum. I'm going absolutely out of my mind, being isolated at home. But yes, I'm just finding anything I can to talk about on Twitter. Yeah, my partner James, he collects fenders, so I'm sitting in a room surrounded by them at the moment. The guitars I don't mind, it's the amplifiers that bother me, because they're these big black, horrible looking boxes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, what goals have you set for yourself?
Imminently, you mean, like right now?
Yeah, right now.
Well, I have decided to get fit, because I think I said this on Twitter the other day, but I've been skinny, I've been fat, but I've never been strong. And having just turned 40, I think now's my time. I've never really had like any muscle definition, although I've always been envious of people that do, but then I've just sat on the couch looking at images of them rather than getting off my arse and doing push-ups, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to try and do. I did 20 press-ups today for the first time, which, you know, is a start. But, yeah, that's my goal, to get fit, I think, this year.
That's a good goal.
Also, it just makes you mentally, like, you just feel so much more comfortable in your own skin, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I've always, you know, I went through, going back to the acting thing, I've been told various times that I was too fat for a role, which is a horrible thing to hear, but it happens quite frequently to actresses, unfortunately, and that's one of the pitfalls of the business, that they sort of like you to conform to a certain size and shape, and as a result, you know, not just because of that, but I think like a normal teenager, as soon as I started developing, I was very uncomfortable in my skin, and it's taken me, that only changed for me when I had my kid, because once I gave birth and knew what my body was actually made for and what it could do, I realised that I'm an absolute machine.
Yes.
I'm a warrior.
Yes.
So now, you know, I have no inhibitions, you know. I'd happily stand in, you know, the middle of wherever, and just take all my clothes off and not give a fuck.
Yeah.
I just don't care anymore.
Yes.
But unfortunately, the irony is, because I used to get asked to take my clothes off in movies back in the day, I was always very, very strict about it. But now that I am confident in my own body, nobody wants me to get naked anymore. So that's a bit of a bummer, but there we go. Can't have it all.
I'm sure that day will come. It's coming. They'll want you to do that.
Well, what? Me getting my boobs out?
Yes.
Maybe. I don't know. Well, let's pray.
Now, what current projects are you working on that you can talk about?
So I've just done a really, really interesting project. I play an American. She's a technological wizard, and she works for the NSA. And she's come to London with a colleague to try and track down the guy who invented Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's a dark comedy, and I probably can tell you a bit about it, because what happens is that they're aiming to get the truth out of this guy, Satoshi Nakamoto, the guy who is the inventor of Bitcoin. And what they plan to do is to inject him with this drug called sodium pentamax, which is called a truth serum, which effectively means that once it's in your system, you cannot lie about anything. But without ruining the story, the plan goes horribly wrong, and other people that aren't supposed to take the serum end up taking it. And it all ends up, it's a complete shit show by the end of the film, but I think it's going to be really good. It's a young director called Tom Sands. His dad, Nick Sands, wrote the movie. There's a relatively small cast, but there's some great people on board, and we shot it in Brighton on the south coast of England, but we got shut down because of the virus. So we have 70% of it filmed and 30% left to do. So that was a bit sad, but obviously we had to be careful. So there's that, and then there's another film that I made, again an independent, called Listen, which I play an English woman. It's all about a family, a Portuguese family, who are about to have their children taken away in England. It's set in England, but it's a Portuguese family that are in England, and they're about to have their kids taken away by social services. I think, do you call it the same thing in America?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I play a woman who runs a safe house, whereby she kind of works undercover against the authorities to help families keep their kids, but the only way to do that is that she has to get them out of the country. So that one's very dark. It's certainly not going to make you laugh, but it will, I think, make you think.
I like it.
What else have I been doing? I'm going to film another series. I've been doing a series for Sky called The Discovery of Witches.
Yes.
So I'm going to do, just heard today actually, that I'm going to be doing the third series of that, so that's really exciting.
Yeah.
What else? That's it for now, really, but I'm very blessed because I'll tell you something that I bet you won't believe. So this is where the business can be an absolute bitch,
yeah.
Right? I hope you don't have the young listeners on this.
No, you're fine.
Here's the cold, hard truth, right?
Yes.
So, as you know, I had a very, very successful career in my 20s, right, straight through. But when I was 33, I got pregnant out of my own choice. I was desperate to have a kid. And I decided that for the first 2-3 years of his life, I wasn't going to work because I just wanted to be a mum.
Right.
And I, looking back, maybe naively thought that because I already had a super solid career behind me, that when it would come time for me to say, right, to my agent, right, I'm ready to come back to work now, that they would say, right, absolutely, and something would come up relatively quickly. I still have to audition for most things, but that's fine. But anyway, Lana, I auditioned for 2.5 years and did not get one single job.
Really?
Yeah.
That blows my mind.
In fact, I said to myself, after 2.5 years, I was like, right, I'm not doing this rejection anymore, because what it had done to my head, it was horrible mentally, because I thought at that time, I was like, again, this goes back to taking things personally, right?
Yes.
My head had told me, well, you know, now that you're old, you know, now that you're not a young ingenue in your 20s, the industry's not interested in you, you know, there's not a place for you anymore, you know, so just fuck off. And I decided, you know, I literally in my head said, right, I'll do one more audition and that's it. And if I don't get that job, I quit. And that audition was The Discovery of Witches.
Wow.
And then it all started again. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's not just hard for people trying to break into the business. It's hard for people that are already in the business.
Trying to stay in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you don't, like, you know, there's no guarantees. Like, you're only as good as your last job.
Yeah.
You know, it's brutal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal. And I don't take any of it for granted now. especially because of that period. It's like I always, each job that I have been lucky enough to have now, I've treated it as if it might be my last. So I've just enjoyed it all to the fullest.
Sure.
Never complained about anything.
So perseverance is a huge thing in this industry. Being able to handle all of that rejection and keep forging forward.
Yeah. And here's another story. So when I was younger, when you went to an audition, you would go into a room and actually meet a director and work on the script. Nowadays, that very rarely happens. What happens is that your agent will call you and give you about a day and a half notice to say, will you self-tape for this role? You know what that means,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Okay. And so it means that you have to learn about 9 pages of dialogue, and they want you to have learned it all off by heart, and then they want you to record it in your own house with a friend, and then send it back to your agent, who's going to send it to a director or producer, right?
Right.
Now, again, with these self-tapes, that it was also new to me, and I must have done, I'm not joking, this is before my kids, I must have done 300 self-tapes and not got a job.
Wow.
And I was about to say to my agent, right, send me, whichever script comes through last, this is what I said to myself, I'll do the self-tape, but if I don't get it, that's it. And I got asked to audition for Transformers. Michael Bay, the massive prolific director, was directing it. And I thought, well, there's not a chance in hell that I'm going to get this. So I literally had a quick look at the page and read it. I didn't understand what it was talking about, because they only ever give you, on those kind of high-budget movies, they'll only, because they don't want the script getting out into the public, they'll only release a few pages. I didn't understand what the character was talking about, but I just learned it, sent it off, and then 3 days later, I got the job. But like I said, I had to do 300 tapes to get one.
That's insane.
It's difficult, like often, whenever this happens, whenever anyone asks me, oh, what advice would you give to, young aspiring actors, the truth is that my first instinct is to say, don't do it. Just don't do it,
Right.
It's caused me a lot of mental health issues as a result. I'm not going to lie. I've suffered from severe depression as a result of all this. But again, the depression then gets lifted, because once you get the job, it's like, you get this drug, you get this adrenaline rush, and you're back into it, and you're over the moon again. But it's a rocky, rocky road, man. And I think it's even harder now for young people starting out.
Yeah,
I don't want to put a downer on anyone's dreams here, but just be wary, and just be conscious of the fact that it's not going to be easy.
Right. And it's a roller coaster. It really is. Who is someone you'd like to work with in the future that you haven't worked with yet? You probably have a list, I'm sure.
I don't, actually. Oh God, again, when I get put on the spot for names. Well, I definitely want to tell you who I do want to work with, but I want to work with him again. It's Stanley Tucci. He's just
I love
incredible.
him. He's so
he's the best.
fantastic.
He is just so funny as well. Honestly, we had the best time on Transformers. I'd like to work with Samuel L. Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to work with Saoirse Ronan. I think she's incredible. I'd like to work with... There's an actress here called Jodie Comer, the girl that's in Killing Eve. I think she's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't think, Lana. Don't ask me this. But luckily, I've already managed to work with a lot of the people that I wanted to work with, and I feel really, really blessed in that sense.
What is, this is a question that everybody laughs at when I ask them, but it's more for me than anybody. What is your favorite type of cake?
Cake, red velvet.
Ah, that's a good one. Homemade, or do you have a certain place that you like to get it from?
Oh, no, I can't bake, but there's a place called Sprinkles in Los Angeles. Yeah, I used to go on massive sugar binges. Like, I'd go on huge food benders. I'd go and buy, like, a box of 12 and just eat them all in one go. Yeah,
wow.
I'd be, like, in a coma on my couch for 3 days, having gained 85 pounds. But it was worth it.
Red velvet. Icing? Does it have icing on it?
Yeah, but the cream, just cream icing.
Gotcha.
Plain, like, cream, yeah.
Yeah. I get sucked in with that really thick cream cheese icing. That gets me every time. I can't turn it away. Yeah. I'm just curious if this is something that you're attracted to in roles. You have a lot of vampire films in your background.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're going to ask me if I'm interested in vampires.
No, if you're just interested in that genre and those types of films.
No, not at all. I would never watch a vampire show. I have no interest whatsoever, which is ironic because I've been asked to play vampires various times, and I've had to be in vampire. I did this show called Moonlight, where I played a human that had fallen in love with vampires. They seem to have followed me around, these vampires, my whole career. But no, I couldn't. I'm completely not interested in. I don't think they exist. I think it's all a lie. Don't get it.
Although I do love in Underworld the whole jumping onto the ceiling and hissing thing. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was. Although I'll tell you a funny story about that. So they had, before I did it, they rigged up a stunt woman just to show me how they were going to do it. And it was like they wrapped sort of wires. I was supposed to wear a harness, and then wrapped these wires 3 times around my waist. And so when there was 2 wires, I can't remember, but there was some sort of rig, and what would happen was there was some guy behind the side of the set that would, on action, he would pull the rope very hard downwards, which would sort of catapult me up to the ceiling. But when they showed me with the stunt woman, she got completely tangled up and started screaming. And I just thought, there's no way I'm going to do this. But then I thought, well, I better try. And luckily, it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. Loads of people mention that small moment, which at the time seemed completely insignificant to me, because it was literally, 10 seconds, if that.
Yeah.
Film. But yeah, there's gifts of it now, I see.
Being in the business, I know this is probably going to be an easy one to answer. Is there a disappointment that you face that you still kind of think about every once in a while that still kind of sticks with you?
Yeah, I guess the one, but again, it makes total sense in hindsight, was that I was neck and neck with Keira Knightley for the role in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Okay.
And at the time so it was just literally the 2 of us down to the wire, and when I didn't get it, I was devastated. But I think Keira played it beautifully, but also I think at the time, had I got that role, I wouldn't have been able to cope with the onslaught of the fame that would have come with it, being, 22, whereas Keira, again, handled that beautifully. But I think actually had that happened to me, I think I would have kind of probably, Lord knows what would have happened, but I think I'd probably have turned to drink and drugs and just not been able to cope. Because fame is a funny thing, and I'm really glad that it actually hasn't happened to me. Now, I obviously understand that I have a certain level of fame, but what I don't have, and what I'm really grateful for, is that I don't get followed by paparazzi when I walk down the street. I never have. And I don't, I only generally am in the press if I have a movie to promote, rather than, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because also, the thing is that having seen people for example, when I worked with Mark Wahlberg on Transformers, the poor guy, he can't go anywhere. And anywhere he goes, he's the centre of attention. So I wouldn't want that, because I still want to be able to sit in a cafe, in London, on the street, have a cup of coffee, and people watch, right?
Yes.
Mark Wahlberg couldn't do that. And it means that a lot of the time, the people that become kind of globally famous, they have to stay in almost in solitary confinement in their own homes. They can't go out and have a normal life.
Yeah, the paparazzi freak me out. But
now everyone's a paparazzi because everyone has a phone.
Yeah, and that's even more disturbing, isn't it? I'm with you. I wouldn't want that level of fame. Definitely.
No.
Yeah.
I don't mind it when I'm older, because when I'm an old woman, I'm just going to be like one of those people, you're able to say, oh, fuck off, don't be so, get out of my fucking way. But you can't, if you were to say that now, you'd be criticised as being, oh, she's really bitchy or she's really difficult to work with. Whereas when people are older, they don't just the older actresses, they don't give a fuck.
Yeah, they've earned it. Yeah.
Too much,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're already facing heavy bouts of ageism?
No, I don't actually. No, I don't. Because I actually feel really liberal. I think I probably felt ageism more when I was in my mid-30s, actually.
Okay.
Leading up to 40, all of a sudden I feel like I've come over, like I said, having had that period of not being able to get a job for 2.5 years.
Right.
they're coming back now, and the roles are so much more interesting. And I like the fact that I'm not just on screen to look beautiful, and it's really, it's lovely. I'm going into work now, spending 10 minutes in the makeup chair rather than, an hour and a half. And I love it. It's just so freeing, because I never wanted to play I've always felt like a character actress, right? So it was a bit weird for me to be I've always felt like a character actor that's been stuck, that's in the body of a leading lady, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So now what's lovely, I mean, I'm not saying, I'm really grateful, and it was amazing playing, leading love interest ladies, but now being able to get offered characters where it's not dependent on, how beautiful you look, that's to me far, far more interesting.
Now, how are you with memorizing dialogue? Do you absolutely hate it? Are you great at it?
Well, here's a funny thing. I used to be really good at it. I found it easy, very, very easy. I mean, I could literally, look at my life, having my hair done in the morning. Ever since I had my son, literally my memory has just gone, my short-term memory, and it takes me hours and hours and hours and hours now to learn it. So that's really changed.
What is your process? Are you a repetition person with dialogue?
Yeah, pretty much. And I find the easiest way to learn dialogue is to have somebody else read the other, to practice with someone else reading the other character. Because if I just sit alone and stare at the page and say it doesn't go in that easily. But having someone to help, read in with me is always good. Sometimes I get James, my partner, what we'll do is we'll sit down and we'll record us reading together, and then I'll just listen to it over and over and over again in my car when I'm driving. That's quite a good way. I mean, it's boring, but it does help get it into the brain.
Is there something else you would like to do in the film business? Would you like to direct one day?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm a bit lazy to direct. Like, I don't think I could have the responsibility of being the boss of all those people.
Yeah.
But I think writing is probably going to be my thing.
Oh, that's exciting.
Until now, I hadn't had the idea because I was struggling. I knew that I wanted to write or that I should, but I just simply didn't know what to write about. And I sat down sometimes, at my laptop, but nothing came out. And it was only because I collaborated. I had lunch with a friend, and he started talking. And oh my God, like, that's amazing. And as he said it, brain started firing.
I'm not a fantastic writer by any stretch of the imagination. I can always write something and then pass it off to a couple of my screenwriter friends and say, "Here, there's this idea I started. If you're interested, run with it." Yeah. Yeah, that's usually what I do. If people want to follow you on social media, where do they find you?
Twitter's the best place. I mean, I do. So Twitter, I'm just at Sophia Myles. Instagram, I used to have it private, but I've just opened it up. But I never really post on there at the moment. I should probably get better at that. But yeah, I would say Twitter. And I'm pretty good at, like, if you write to me, I do try and read everything. I do look at it, not every day, but what I'll do is I'll go and catch up if I haven't looked at it for a while. But Twitter's a good one.
Yeah, I like Twitter. It's so easy. And Instagram's easy too. I think Facebook's my least favorite of any social platform.
I don't like Facebook because they're just flooded with advertising now.
Yeah.
I use Facebook just to keep in touch with my old friends, but I don't use it.
Right.
For it's not open to the public. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't really. To be honest, I don't even go on there anymore. I just because you have to just scroll through so much rubbish before you can actually get to see what your friends are up to. Right.
Well, Sophia, thank you so much for hanging out with me and chatting. This was so fun. I learned a lot. I'm going to look up the Crystal Bible because I'm interested in that.
Yeah, go and get it. Go and start connecting, honestly.
That's very cool.
Good. We'll keep in touch because I know we met through Twitter, so keep in touch, yeah?
Absolutely, I will.
Well, I hope I didn't swear too much.
Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
All right, well, listen, lots and lots of love, and thanks for getting in touch.
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Big shout out to Kevin MacLeod over at INCOMPETECH for our super slick theme song, Jet Fueled VIXEN. And a big shout out to Michelle Lawson for our super amazing disclaimer.